Hey, what up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here. I'm a few days late, but I was able to check out episode number 2 of WWE's Ride Along. In this episode of WWE Ride Along, we have two different cars of superstars that are going to be traveling from Philadelphia to Newark, New Jersey. I believe that there are tapings from Monday Night Raw and I guess Thursday Night SmackDown, I guess, or maybe it's just SmackDown these days. In the two cars, we have in one car we have the two of the members of the heck is that team called? It's Sheamus and Wade Barrett. And their team matters so little that I can't remember the actual name of their team. And I want to call them like the Foreign Nation or League of Nations. It doesn't even sound right, but I actually think that's it. But I think it's maybe because the team has been hurt so bad. It's like they all go in a circle of rotating injuries, whether if it's Rusev's back injury, Wade Barrett's, I think he has a concussion, I think is what he has. We've got Sheamus's arm injury and Alberto Del Rio's back injury. I mean, everybody's got banged up one time or another. Wade Barrett's going down to ringside, getting involved in matches, but not taking any bumps during them to try and cover up for the fact that he's not able to wrestle right now. But in the other car, we have the weird team of Summer Rae, we have Renee Young, and we have R-Truth trucking on down the road. And I will tell you that in the car of Ladies and R-Truth, Summer Rae looks like she is the worst driver of all time. For a while, I thought maybe they had got a larger size SUV and that Summer Rae and Renee Young were actually sitting in the middle seat as another driver was driving them down the road. Summer Rae, who was in the driver's seat, was spending a lot of her time looking at her phone, scrolling through her phone, just doing this, and then out of the middle of nowhere later on in the show, I actually see her with her hands on the steering wheel, and I was frightened for their lives. Honestly, from watching episode 2, I can tell you that this show is nothing much more than filler. It was a 30-minute episode. It honestly felt like it was about 10. When it comes down to it, nothing really happened. We see Wade Barrett and Sheamus reflecting on how big of a show Monday Night Raw was for Sheamus. Sheamus says that it was one hell of a fun night. Wade Barrett brings up the fact that he lost the World Heavyweight Championship to Roman Reigns that night, but due to everything that was down there, Sheamus said, with Vince being involved in the match, and just constantly teasing with the fans that Roman wasn't going to be able to win the big one, that it sure was a fun night. But Sheamus was the guy who finally got to put over Roman Reigns to be the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I think it would have been awfully fun to have been in Roman Reigns' car that night to see how he celebrated. I've seen where he travels with Dean Ambrose a lot. I've seen where he travels sort of like with a third Shield member. I've seen Swagger travel with them. So hopefully we get to see him on the car ride and sooner than later. But I know I watched this episode really late. This episode debuted Monday after Monday Night Raw, and I didn't get a chance to watch it till Saturday. But it just doesn't seem like this is must-watch television. Nothing that was really in there. It had its high points. It had its low points. We had Sheamus and Wade Barrett both talking about what it was like to wrestle for Irish Whip Wrestling back in the day. Basically looked like your average high school gym independent show. They went out and they got footage from Irish Whip Wrestling of a match between Wade Barrett and Sheamus. Both guys going out there and getting the job done. The scary thing is that more than likely they probably showed the highlights of this match, and it didn't look that great. These guys hadn't gone through WWE developmental. They were probably really young in their career, and they really polished themselves up to be the wrestlers that they are today. But still, pretty fun to find this old footage of these guys going at it back in the day, because you would think that most of the time, with people being spread out around the world, especially one guy coming from the UK, one guy coming from Ireland, that these guys probably wouldn't have matched up somewhere along the way. We talked about Summer Rae's dream of trying to get into a music video with Renee Young making fun of the way that she danced. R-Truth being a guy who's trying to dip his toe into music to end his wrestling career. Renee Young and Summer Rae were both telling that he could be their fly girls, and they could dance a lot like Jim Carrey, on In Living Color had J-Lo dancing for them. But R-Truth, it seems like on this episode, he is just basically a basic guy. He's just probably in this car to split the traveling cost 3 ways. It would probably just be the cheapest way to get down the road. We all know that he's got a wife. We all know that he's got lots of kids at home. And he's probably just trying to save as much money as he can. The highlight of Ride Along is each and every time we see these guys stop for food. I know that WWE provides catering before Monday Night Raw, but these guys go out there and they wrestle a big match to go out there and entertain everybody. And I'm sure once they're done, like everybody else, after a good long day's work, everybody wants to have some sort of food to finish out their day. Sheamus is saying that he has to stop for food immediately, that he is starving. Wade Barrett is saying that basically they're an hour away from Newark and they can get a better meal that won't be fattening and kill them. But Sheamus is able to get Wade Barrett to pull over along the way. It looks like they stop at a burger place. They don't really talk about the food that they get, but we see Wade Barrett sit down in the driver's seat and say, "All right, who's ready to get fat?" And they take big bites of what looks like hamburgers. Renee Young, Summer Rae, and R-Truth basically stop at what looks like to be a gas station, honestly. Summer Rae and Renee Young, they come back opening a box of Edam's cookies. It looks like the smaller chocolate chip ones, while R-Truth is eating a quesadilla in the back out of a box. It doesn't look like Taco Bell. It looks like an actual Mexican deli. Here in Sacramento, we have a place called Alberto's, which is hard to beat for Mexican food. Renee Young offers R-Truth a cookie, and he actually puts it inside of his quesadilla and eats it, and they sort of make fun of him. We see some sort of small talk between Sheamus and Wade Barrett talking about soccer overseas, while Renee Young and Summer Rae are being made fun of by R-Truth for not knowing who Archie Bunker from All in the Family is. A very popular, I think it was in the 80s, comedy show. Archie Bunker was the guy just basically played a white racist who at the end of the show had a good heart. It was a different time back then. They got away with a lot more. But he had his 2 younger kids living with him and this, that, and the other. But, we see little things like we see R-Truth asking Renee Young if she ever farted in front of Dean Ambrose. And we see Renee Young telling secrets to R-Truth about how Dean Ambrose loves to take Epsom salt baths. Things that you would never tend to think of. But when it comes down to it, we're not getting the kind of conversation. I wanted to see guys in the car driving from town to town. You don't really want them going after creative, saying that it's horrible. But definitely talking about stories from their past, big matches that they've had, and things like that. I think that would be a highlight to this show, and hopefully they can find a way to tinker with it and get it to be a little bit better. But during the 90-minute drive from Philly to Newark, we got a half hour from each car. Half hour from both cars. And when it comes down to it, nothing really happened.